All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour, where India's Foreign Minister S Jaishankar reportedly has spoken with the new Secretary of State of the United States, Antony Blinken. This makes it the second conversation between the two leaders in a span of less than 15 days. Tweeting about the conversation, the Foreign Minister S Jaishankar said that India and the United States had reviewed the developments of the Indo-Pacific region and Quad cooperation. The leaders also exchanged views on the situation in Myanmar. On the 30th of January, India's Foreign Minister and the Secretary of the State, Antony Blinken, had discussed a whole host of issues of mutual concern, including the COVID-19 vaccination rollout, regional developments, and also the next steps in expanding bilateral ties. It was Antony Blinken's first telephonic conversation with S. Jaishankar after he assumed the charge of the top American diplomat. The Secretary Blinken had underscored India's role as a preeminent US partner in the Indo-Pacific and the importance of working together to expand the regional cooperation, including through Quad. A few hours ago, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi also tweeted about a phone call between him and the US President Joe Biden. This, remember, was the very first telephonic conversation between two heads of governments since Joe Biden took charge of the United States of America on the 20th of January. Now, tweeting about the phone call, the Prime Minister said that India and the United States are committed to rules-based international order. The leader also called for strategic partnership in the Indo-Pacific region amidst the growing Chinese belligerence. In a statement, the Prime Minister's office said, and I quote here, the leaders noted that the India-US partnership is firmly anchored in a shared commitment to democratic values and common strategic interests. The Prime Minister Modi welcomes President Biden's decision to recommit to the Paris Agreement and highlighted the ambitious targets that India has set for itself in the area of renewable energy. The Prime Minister also took the opportunity to invite President Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden to visit India at their earliest convenience. Later, the White House also issued a statement on the conversation. It said, and I quote, the leaders agreed to continue close cooperation to promote a free and an open Indo-Pacific, including support for the freedom of navigation, territorial integrity, and also a stronger regional architecture through the Quad. Now, Narendra Modi and Joe Biden has vowed to strengthen the Indo-Pacific security through the Quad group of nations amidst growing Chinese threat. The group comprises of India, the United States, Japan, and Australia. The Quad has taken center stage in the region as the nations are trying to counter China's political, commercial, and military activities. And to give us more perspective in terms of why this conversation between Antony Blinken and S. Jaishankar is so important, we're joined in by our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibil. He's joining us more on this from New Delhi. Good morning to you, Siddhant. Bring us more up to speed with what actually happened in this conversation.
Well, Mohammed, just a short while ago, the State Department has also released its readout of the conversation, the second conversation between the two foreign ministers of US and India, the External Affairs Minister and the Secretary of State. And similar lines talking about the situation in Myanmar, the Quad, and of course the Indo-Pacific. In fact, last 48 hours have been something that shows that how India and US are taking their relationship forward. At the State Department briefing also, the daily briefing, number of questions on India-US relationship, and the State Department reiterating the fact that how India is an important ally, a partner, and how both countries are working together when it comes to Quad, when it comes to Indo-Pacific and other such issues. In fact, there have been conversation at multiple levels, at the Defense Minister's level, the NSA level, the External Affairs Minister level, and of course the Prime Minister and the President level now. And the focus next is how to make sure that when it comes to the Indo-Pacific, the rules-based order that both the countries have been talking about can be implemented. In fact, one of the questions was asked to the State Department regarding Chinese aggressiveness with India. And this, of course, is the first reaction under the Biden administration by the State Department. And the State Department reacted saying that when it comes to China, its aggressive action against India or any other country is a matter of concern. But the conversation which both the External Affairs Minister and the Secretary of State had was to make sure that how to go about with the Quad. Because remember, Quad is something, the idea getting currency, especially in the aftermath of 2020. A year which saw the Chinese aggressiveness with India, with Australia, with Japan, Taiwan, a whole host of countries. So when it comes to Quad, there are, of course, reports. We all have seen that how the Biden administration is keen on making sure that there can be a virtual summit of the Quad's leaders. If this happens, this will be an important geopolitical moment, not only for Asia, but for the entire world. In fact, one question was, in fact, asked during the State Department briefing whether there is something happening regarding the Quad summit. There was no mention, there was no direct reply, but what the State Department said that US is working with India to make sure that this can be something that both sides and of course 4 countries can work together.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Now, for people who are watching this very closely from India, it's heartening to see the Americans actually reaching out to the Indians, and many would say that this is actually being done by the Americans as a part of its larger contain China policy. But India has a more immediate concern on hand. This is to do with the border tensions in Ladakh along the line of actual control. At this point of time, have we heard anything at all from the Americans in terms of what they would like to do concretely to try and resolve this conflict?
Well, when it comes to dealing with China, it looks like an action which will require the democratic countries working together. We know the Americans talking about it multiple times also during the State Department briefing. But also, remember, UK is also talking about it. It has been talking about D10 grouping. Boris Johnson has invited the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the G7 summit as well. He's expected to come to India. So democratic forces coming together to counter China. So now, as you asked how the situation is, how the Americans can be part of it, and how there is a containment policy. When it comes to containment of China, it is increasingly becoming a policy not just of the American but many countries in the region as well, because the Chinese have been very aggressive, and the problem is it's not black and white as it was in the Cold War era, because right now there is a huge economic outflow and inflow to China with countries including with India as well. Even as we have the border issue, we know the trade between the 2 countries is significant. So how you deal with a country with which you are having such a great trade relation, that is also a significant thought process how to go about it. But largely it looks like the Chinese are not going to mend their ways. There is an increased realization. In fact, just recently, the Indian External Affairs Minister said that despite multiple rounds of conversation, both at the diplomatic level and at the military level, there is no visible expression of the outcome on the ground. So now countries are coming together. In the Quad, if you look carefully, 2020 saw multiple level of engagement, specifically on the COVID cooperation, but increasingly moving towards other directions as well.
All right, we'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Siddhant Sibil, for joining us and getting us all those updates there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.